when I had the gun in my mouth, I actually prayed for the first time ever in my life.
Really?
Yeah, and it was really emotional. Like I was really drugged up at the time and didn't know what I was doing. Basically, I was really, and he saved me for a reason. So I'm really wanting to have this second chance, worth it, you know. But I feel so guilty every time. Like every time I wake up, my tongue feels the top of my mouth, and I have a scar up there. And
so something that always reminds you.
Exactly, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the Saved and Tatted podcast. Glad to have y'all back. Today is a really good episode we got going on. I have a good friend of mine, Alex. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
How you doing? You doing pretty good?
Yeah.
That's good, man. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you got a really deep story, man. Your testimony is one that I think is really beneficial to a lot of people. I think that a lot of the things that you've overcome, some of the stuff that you've dealt with, I think a lot of people can relate more than we think.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that your story needs to be told, and people need to know that they're not the only ones out there that battle with, depression and stuff like that. But tell me a little bit about yourself, man. So
I was raised in England, and I came over here at 12 years old because my dad worked for Coca-Cola at the time and Minute Maid, and he brought over because we had a high C. Capri Suns in England, the pouches.
Oh, yeah.
And then he brought over the high C blasts.
So I remember you telling me about that. So I get confused when I'm thinking about it. So your dad didn't invent the actual box, but he brought the patent over from England over
exactly,
this way.
yeah.
Gotcha.
The production line, I guess.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's like those people that their dad invented toaster strudels or
right,
Pop-Tarts or something like yeah. Random stuff. But no, that's pretty cool. That's an interesting story, man. So how long have you been here?
I've been here since 1997, so 20-something odd years, 28 years.
So in this area?
Yeah, I grew up in Sugarland. I went to high school in Sugarland in Clements.
Okay, cool.
Clements High School.
So,
and I did middle school there too, First Colony Middle School, and then went to Clements High School.
Okay, is it a big culture shock from over there to over here?
Oh, God, yeah.
Is it more so the type of things, the places we go and stuff like that, or is it more like the culture and the people and the way people react to things and stuff like that?
Yeah, the people, the way they react to it, and the language.
Yeah.
The language is a little bit different, like chips and crisps and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I had a buddy that I used to work with. He was from England, and we used to work for a construction company, and we would always go places, and I would have to drive with them, and he would always get mad in traffic, and he'd be like, put your blinker on, rather than put your blinker on, he would say, put your indicator on.
There we go, indicator, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
Like, what the heck what are you talking about?
Yeah. No.
Same as like trunk and boot. We call it boot in England, the trunk.
The trunk of a car?
Yeah, and then the hood is the bonnet.
Where does that even come from, though?
I don't know. I think it's old school.
Old school?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that before, the bonnet? You have?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
I watched
From the movies. Well,
that's where everyone gets it. It's good education,
Yeah. So were you attending church service or anything like that when y'all were over in England, or is that
we just did it for like special occasions like Christmas and Easter. Mm-hmm. So just really like that, but not like every week.
Now is I don't want to necessarily say religion, but the church environment, is it a lot different over there? I would assume that it's more traditional.
Traditional, yeah. I was going to say traditional.
As far as the buildings or just everything in general, the type of service, worship, and stuff like that.
The acoustics are in the churches are amazing.
Yeah,
like they're built around the acoustics, and it's beautiful.
I've never been to I would say like an old school traditional church.
They have like the really old organs that have like amazing harmonies. It's beautiful.
So I'm assuming that the worship is different than the kind of worship we have at our church.
Yeah. It's all like monotone and.
Okay. And do y'all normally have like an actual worship team, like worship team and stuff like that?
Not really anything like over here.
Oh, okay.
And I fell in love with the church over here because it's so different and
yeah.
so outgoing, kind of like my personality.
Yeah. Now, what about the actual like theological stance of it? You know, do pastors or what preachers? You know, what is it? How do they go about their service? Is it something that's straight from the Bible? Do they kind of tie in, you know, stuff that we deal with on the daily, like most modern pastors do? Or
We call him the vicar, our pastor. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
And he's like all dressed up in like the traditional.
Okay. So is it considered more of like a Catholic, or is it still? I mean, I know,
Church of England. Really.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what my religion is. Church of England.
Man. And so when y'all came over here, did y'all just jumped into a church? Y'all were attending church somewhere else, your family?
And we still didn't go to church like all the time, but special occasions, you know, christenings and stuff like that. Okay. And Easter and Christmas, of course. And we went church shopping, so.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, going around testing out the church to see which one fits you best.
And my passion is music, so I'm all about, you know, music and worshiping, and I fell in love with worship music.
Yeah, so we know each other because we actually attend the same church. Mm-hmm. You actually were just baptized recently at church.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So I want to say congratulations on that, man. It was awesome to be a part of that. It was awesome to see that. You know, you talked about that you enjoy worship and stuff like that. You were a part of the worship team at any other churches and stuff? Because I know at our church you're on the media team with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you do the sound and everything.
Oh, yeah. But I have a degree in media productions. So,
okay.
And I've trained on analog mixing.
That's pretty cool.
So it's really old school.
That's awesome.
But I've got the ear for it.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, you do a good job at our church, and I know. I mean, before you came, I ran the board occasionally, and it did not sound as good as it sounds now. So we appreciate you doing that and everything.
That's okay.
So how long have you been to church? How long have you been coming to our church?
I think I started in March.
In March,
April-ish. Of this 2023.
How did you come to find purpose?
Well, I was actually church shopping.
Okay.
Because I
like the way you said that, church shopping.
Yeah. I got it from the hospital, actually. The nurse actually said, you got to go church shopping and find the right church for you and then, get involved and serve and stuff like that. So that's what I did. And I emailed 6 other churches, and Derek was the only one that got back to me.
Okay. And Derek is, for those who don't know, is the pastor from our church at Purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I remember the first time you visited, after that first time, were you just like, hey, this is my home church, or were there still other churches that you were trying out and checking out?
So I always get judged about my disability. And
really?
Yeah. And
at churches?
Everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And the worst one was in college, because I got judged so much, and students are just terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a terrible situation.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of panic attacks, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which is really hard. But it's just a lesson learning thing,
Yeah. Well, man, I'm glad that you found a home here at Purpose and everything.
It's been beautiful.
We enjoy having you, man.
I appreciate it.
Me and you actually run a small group together, a mental health small group, which is actually coming to an end.
It is, sadly.
Yeah, but we'll be able to pick back up again when the next small group season starts. Now, we both are leaders of this small group, the mental health one. Why does that pertain to you? I mean, how does that tie into your life?
I had a really bad accident in 2010 where I tried to take my own life, and I just felt like everything was going downhill for me. I was on drugs, and alcohol was like the main thing in my life. I woke up like shaking because I needed alcohol, and
from withdrawals and stuff.
Exactly,
like that.
Yeah.
I got you, man.
And
I've dealt with that stuff before. Not to your extent, but I mean,
I couldn't sleep. I hadn't sleep in like about a week, and my mind was going, really downhill fast, and I hit rock bottom, unfortunately, and I just came to I had my girlfriend dump me of 7 years, and my band broke up, and a band is like a family, and it just devastated me, and I just felt like I had nothing left, and I was so depressed, and I wasn't thinking right at the same time, and wasn't getting sleep, and I felt so alone, and I just didn't want to live anymore. And I went to go get my dad's gun downstairs in the morning of a Tuesday, November 11th, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's really hard to talk about it because it's around that time now.
Of course. So before we dig a little deeper, man, I just want to tell you that I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I appreciate you being vulnerable, opening up. Like I said, just to open up the podcast, that, you know, I think your testimony is something that really needs to be heard, and it's going to be very beneficial to other people. I think a lot of people deal with depression, and a lot of people tend to be ashamed of it and almost try to hide it.
It is,
and
yeah.
So,
It's everyone hides it.
Yeah.
Everyone suffers from it. It's just no one talks about it. And I just want to break that stigma and bring people to life and talk about the horrible things in life.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks about suicide, you know, one time in their life. And I just took it to the next level, and I regret it every day. But it's been like a blessing to me now, because I'm beginning to help people with the same problems.
it's a crazy way to look at it, man.
It really is. I thought it was like the worst time of my life, and I felt like my life was over when I was trying to, you know, in rehab and trying to get back to normal. I'm still not back to normal. I'm still, you know, doing therapy every day, and it's tough. It's painful and physically painful, and it's mentally painful even more. But I just want people to, you know, open up about their feelings and just really talk about, you know, what's troubling you, because no one talks about it, and they keep it hush hush, and it's just not the way to go, I don't think.
No, you know, and I would like to dig more into it. If I mean, if you're completely open to me, you know, kind of asking you some questions and stuff that I think there was, you know, certain points in my life where maybe I, you know, didn't go all the way of grabbing something or pulling the trigger or anything. But like you said before, I believe that everyone has always had the thought of, is my life really worth it? Like, do I really need to be here? You know, someone would be better off without me.
Exactly. That's the thoughts that you need. That's the enemy that coming in to your mind.
And they all build up to something, you know. So, you know, again, I appreciate it, man. And you know, one of the things that I'm curious about is, in the process of you leading up to that, was God a part of your life? I know that you state that, you know, y'all went to church occasionally here and there, but me and you both know now that there's a difference between going to church and actually being a part of a church.
And being faithful.
Being faithful, correct.
Exactly,
correct. Yeah. Did you have a relationship with God up until those moments?
Not really, no. Not until I, you know, right now, I'm dwelling really into my faith. And for the first time I had, when I had the gun in my mouth, I actually prayed for the first time ever in my life.
Really?
Yeah, and it was really emotional. Like, I was really drugged up at the time and didn't know what I was doing, basically. I was really...
Do you remember what it was that you were praying for? Or?
Just for help, that I need to get over this. Like, I need help. Please help me, God. And I had the gun in my mouth. Please help me. And I laid down and I squeezed the trigger, and I regret it every day, mate.
And, you know, of course, people who have met you, we know that you have nerve damage and stuff like that. Is all of that all from
the brain injury and the gun. Okay,
and I'm assuming that recovery, I mean, you're still in recovery right now, technically.
Oh, yeah. It's always, I mean, everyone's in recovery, but I've had an accident. And
how did that, I know ultimately, like, physically that changed your life, but overall, an emotional standpoint, as far as, you know, you building a relationship with God, most people, or at least for me, I would see that as like, you know, God, why didn't you take me? Or there apparently isn't a God because I shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
How did you come into the environment of, well, God saved my life, and ultimately God's telling me,
well, that was the main point,
that I'm here for a purpose.
I had a second chance, and I've got to make the second chance count, you know, and I've got to give it up all to Him and give it over to Him, and just, you know, grow in my faith.
And so, with you, after all this happened, if you don't mind, can you kind of like talk about or walk in the steps of the recovery afterwards? Like, when did you wake up? When were you able to understand what had happened and where you were and stuff like that?
So I didn't know where I was at the time. I woke up after 3 months in ICU.
Oh, wow.
And
so you were in a coma?
They wanted to put me in a coma, but my mum and dad said no, because they know exactly, like, maybe he's not going to come out of that. But my brain was swelling so much. My head was 3 times the size. And I had no skull here because they had to remove the bone flap to let the brain, you know, swell. But if they didn't remove the bone flap, then it would swell and it would press on my...
Build pressure.
Exactly, yeah, and it would kill me.
Wow.
But it's been a journey, let me tell you.
So ultimately 3 months is where you were able to wake up and be coherent enough and awake enough to understand what it was that had happened?
Well, I wasn't really coherent.
Okay.
I had to have speech therapy for a good month, and like physical therapy started. I had to learn how to walk. I remember my first steps again. It was incredible, and it was emotional at the same time, but it made me mentally stronger, I believe.
Now, did God come into your life, or did you accept God into your life like right after that happened? Or is that something that kind of came
It built
with
up.
the
It built
process?
up. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that in the process of you in rehabilitation and you, those first couple of months of you starting to, like you said, talk again, like those have got to be some like really dark times of having to like.
It was the depression tried to kick in and take over my life, but I said stop, and I was going to move towards God and, have more positivity in my life.
Gotcha. And do you think that you talked about how at the time of when you pulled the trigger that you were actually, you said on drugs, or?
I was really, really, high, unfortunately. I don't like to say that, but
Yeah.
I was out in my mind. Like, I remember walking up with the gun, and I actually had, I took 2 guns. I had the shotgun and a revolver, and I had my dressing gown on.
Because both of your parents were home, correct?
Oh, just my mum.
Just your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the maid was there too.
Really?
Yeah, but I think she left before I actually pulled the trigger.
And did you, that morning or whatever part of the day, did you try going to go talk to your mom about the way you felt? Or did you like have a friend that you could call at times like that you would, holler at and say like, hey man, like I'm having a really bad day today. I really need some encouragement.
I did. I had my best friend from high school, Justin Levine, and I called him. He lives in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he's been amazing. And I used to talk to him
But
a lot.
As far as that day goes, were you able to get a hold of him, or?
I was, yes.
Yeah.
I don't really remember the conversation because I was just so messed up in the head. And
So it's safe to say that a lot of the crossing that line was a lot of it was because of the fact that you were not sober at the time.
exactly, yeah. And I really regret it every day. I feel so guilty.
And I think that kind of just brings to light the dangers of, if we can go ahead and say that everyone deals with some sort of depression, everyone deals with some sort of dark times that they go through. A lot of times those who are not on the walk, or a lot of those who don't have a relationship with God, tend to turn to something like that, whether it be sex, drugs, alcohol, going out, some kind of addiction, or something to get to make the body numb for that time.
To mask it.
Correct.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I think that sometimes is what sets you off to go beyond, that point of
the trigger,
of the no return point, And man, I commend you on pulling yourself together.
It's been really tough.
Because
mentally,
I couldn't imagine, man. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't imagine having to redo all those things again with God not in your life at the time.
Yeah, it's been a journey, let me tell you.
So if you can, walk me through the process of when you finally did decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to start going to church. Was there a church that you attended? Were there places that you went to? Was there like a first, godly relationship that you had with a friend or something like that kind of put you on that, okay, this is, I'm all in now,
I actually told my testimony for the first time at my old church.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And I actually met my ex-wife there.
Really? Okay. And so I know that in that process of you letting your testimony out, what if you can walk me through the build up to that point of actually finding the church. I mean, were there times where you kind of shook your fist at God and like, God, why did you let this happen?
Yeah, I broke down many times and fell to my knees and just prayed like a lot.
Yeah.
And really learning how to pray the right way. And because the first time I prayed was when the gun was in my mouth. And that's what really like affected me and really changed my life. And he saved me for a reason, so I'm really wanting to have this second chance, worth it, But I feel so guilty every time. Like every time I wake up, my tongue feels the top of my mouth, and I have a scar up there, and
So something that always reminds you.
Exactly, yeah.
And now, do you see that as a bad thing? Like, do you see it as a...
I used to, yeah.
I mean, I would assume now with you being on your walk, for me, if at the time having a godly relationship, you know, I would assume that would be a reminder of, man, like, I'm still here for
He's
a reason.
real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm still...
It's
I'm
made me
still
more
breathing.
of a believer, actually.
Really?
Yes.
That's good, man. That's good. And I know, like we had talked about before, you had recently gotten baptized.
Oh, it was amazing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, man, it was great. I think
I
that's
appreciate
something.
your help. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course, man. I don't know. You've done a lot for me in my life as far as, you know, showing me that I can't give up when things get hard. You know, I can't allow the enemy, like you said, to kind of come in. You know, he's always out to seek, kill, and destroy. And so we've always got to have those guards up, you know. A lot of times people go through relationships and we have those guards up of not letting people come in and hurt us, but we tend to completely forget about the spiritual battle that goes on. I know that a lot of people sit on the fence when it comes to depression, because the way I see it is two things kind of happen. You know, when you battle depression, again, this is speaking from my experience. I'm not speaking for anyone else. But as far as for me, the times that I've battled depression before I found God, a lot of it was, well, if God was real, why am I going through this?
You question why
Exactly.
all the time. It's just a human state of mind.
And I know that you've had to have gone through that, and you've had to question Him. At what point in your life, where did you decide, like, okay, you know what, He is real? I understand that it's going to be, of course, after you know, you've come out of the hospital and after you've kind of gotten home and everything. But was there a point or like do you remember the time of when you were just like, you know what, God is real and He is here for me?
Yeah, I had a nurse actually tell me I had a 1% chance of living in survival, and
wow, 1%.
That really hit me. Like it was amazing to me, and like it really hit in my heart. And that's really got me like believing that He saved me for a reason, you know.
Yeah, of course He did, man.
And I believe that I can help people with my story.
And so, that nurse speaking life into you and sharing the gospel and stuff like that. That was a big part from.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's important to kind of
beautiful part.
You know, remind people that, you know, we go throughout the day and you see someone hurting on the side of the road, a homeless person, or, you know, someone begging for food, or, you know, someone who's maybe just needs a hug, or someone who just needs a conversation. It doesn't necessarily have to be a stranger, but even a friend, a phone call, you know. I have a really dear friend of mine who he committed suicide, sadly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And he reached out to me. As far as I know, I was the last person he tried to reach out to. And I don't know if the reason he reached out was solely because of me or because of the fact that he had seen God move in my life already.
I think it was that. Yeah.
And he knew that if he got a hold of me, that he was going to get godly advice. And, you know, it ate me up for a good month, maybe. You know, my wife, you know, luckily Marissa was by my side and kind of walked me through that. Because even after, man, when that happened, I had already been saved for roughly 2.5 years, 3 years. So, I mean, I was still a baby Christian, but I was already, you know, in the blood of Jesus. And I knew who God was and the relationship that we had. And when I found that out, even it not actually happening to me, but just that relationship that me and him had, it had me questioning, like, God, why didn't you allow me to answer that phone?
Yeah.
Like, why was I asleep at that time?
That's questioning why again.
And I would question him.
Everyone does it.
And it took, again, me having other friends who were on their walk for me to call them and for them to say, well, you know, what could have happened? What if he talked you into going to go see him and you know, you being the good friend that you are, we're going to drive out there at night and who knows what could have happened. And, you know, things like that. And I think those relationships are things that we really need. You know, everyone
needs it.
There's an episode that I have with my buddy George, a new one that just came out that where we talk about that, the importance of godly relationships and, you know, the discipleship and the fellowship and everything it is. Surrounding yourself with people who are on the same walk as you. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to drop all your old friends, because sometimes you're going to be that person that's going to pull those people out of the darkness.
You're planting the seed for them.
Correct.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, you talked about how at your last church, you kind of gave your testimony and stuff. What was the reaction to people? I know you've told me before, but I'd like, for the listeners to know, like...
I had a lot of people coming up to me in the lobby and giving me hugs out of nowhere and just saying, thank God for Alex Moss, and you are so beautiful, and I'm so glad you're alive. And it really hit me. I'm just like, this is how I can help people now.
Do you think a lot of that reaction was because people were just thankful for you to still be alive, or because they could actually understood where you came from and you were a beacon of hope for them ultimately?
I think so, yeah. Maybe hope, yeah.
Was there any interaction or any conversation, not necessarily knowing the name of the individual, but was there any interaction that you remember that kind of stands out for you?
Yeah, I had this 16-year-old boy come up to me.
Really?
He was really nervous to talk to me.
And this is after?
Yeah, this is when I had my testimony done on the big screen.
Okay. And
I was out in the lobby after church, and he just came up to me, all nervous, like shaking, and just thank God for you, Alex. I burst into tears, gave him a hug.
Was there any kind of advice that you gave him, or did y'all talk for a while, or was it just a real quick interaction?
He was really nervous, so he kind of wanted to get away.
Yeah.
And I learned that, and I felt that from his energy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to keep going and talking, but I would have loved to.
And now that you've you've been baptized, you've declared your love for Jesus and made your relationship public. What are some things that you now view differently? What are some things that you once kind of viewed one way, but now understanding who God is and what God has done in your life, how has that kind of changed your perspective on life, if at all?
Just the problems that I have, I just look at them so more optimistic now.
But you still have problems, correct?
Oh, yeah. I have so many problems from my injury. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So what do you still battle with as far as
I have a constant headache since 2010, which ranges in
ranges from how bad it hurts and
with the weather, pain? Unfortunately. So if the weather is cold or any kind of storm coming, I can feel it better than the weatherman, actually. It's really...
Well, they only need to be 50% right.
I know, yeah.
So you got good odds on that.
They're going to say it's going to rain. No, it's not.
You're like, let me call Alex real quick. Yeah. So other than that, I know that you have, we talked about it earlier, that you have some nerve damage in your arm and your legs. How's recovery been since then?
It's been really tough and really painful physically and mentally. More mentally than anything. And
it's a recovery, I'm assuming, is... therapy is going to be like a thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, basically, yes. And I just basically had to start my life all over again. I had to learn how to walk, talk, do the basic things in life. It's fine motor skills, picking up things and put them in the box or something like that, just like a baby would do to learn how to function in life. And it's just been really tough. And I'm just thankful to be alive, basically. And it's just built my faith really strong.
Yeah. And so, for advice, because I'm sure you have a ton of it, what kind of advice do you have for those who are dealing with depression, who are dealing with suicidal thoughts, things that are going on? Was there any type of, other than church and, the relationships you have, was there anything that really helped you recover from all that?
Church and being close to God, I think, is very important. And in my life now, it's very important. It comes first.
It wasn't a fast process, correct?
No, it was a process, a worn-out process, a long process to get to where I'm at now.
Can you do you mind elaborating a little bit on how that's gone or how that's going?
No, I just have to take one day at a time, basically, and not freak out and not get into that negative state of mind, because it's all about mind state, I believe.
The way that you think about things and stuff.
And everyone's, dealing with depression. It's just people, do it different ways. Some people take drugs to cover it up and mask it. I unfortunately did that and back in the day, and I just did too much. And I felt like I had so much depression in my mind that I didn't want to be here anymore. And I hate to say that, but
yeah. And so I've always said, because it's something that I've always believed, is that there's always, when you remove something heavy and something so massive in your life, like an addiction or a darkness, that's got to be replaced with something. You know, one of the things that I battled with before was that, you know, I had a drinking problem, and, you know, when I met my wife, I became sober, but in the midst of becoming sober, I developed a porn addiction, and that porn addiction kind of took the spot of the alcohol.
And that's what happens.
And ultimately, that revolving door will continue until you find something positive and life-giving to fill that void. What is something that's filled that void for you? I know that you said you love music.
Oh, my passion is music and mixing and producing music. I was a musician before, and unfortunately have paralysis on my left side, so my arm doesn't really work as well as it used to. But I'm fighting every day, and, you know, building my muscles up, and hopefully one day it will come back.
So worship music, I'm assuming,
Oh
is
my
something
God,
that's really...
I can't start the day without music, worship music.
So if I'm not mistaken, right now your favorite worship artists or Christian artists are Phil
Wickham.
Phil Wickham.
He saved my life in 2022, I think, again.
Really?
Because I was really going downhill fast and falling into depression where I shouldn't be. And in 2022, I had to get a divorce from my wife, unfortunately, and just didn't work out. And I lost my job because of that. And I just felt like my life was, you know, ending again, I guess you could say. But it's not really, but if my mind will take over and dwell into that negativity. I didn't want to fall back into that, you know, negative place. So I just started to listen to, you know, YouTube Christian songs, and he came on, and he has one song called "Battle Belongs to You," and it really hit me. And I just, who is this artist? Phil Wickham. So I just started to look him up. He had a book called "On Our Knees." It's to teach you how to pray, and it goes over scripture too. And
really,
it's really a beautiful book, and it saved my life.
And you've said earlier that prayer is something that was the first time you had ever prayed when it had happened, and you kind of learned. That book, I'm assuming, is what kind of helped you
and learn how to pray the correct way.
Get in depth in that,
like the disciples did.
That's good, man. That's good to hear. I think like I said, it's always healthy for us to find something that can fill that void. For me, this podcast was something that had been on my mind for a while, and it took a long time for it to get started. It's taken work for us to get it back going again, but I think when we're able to fill that void with something healthy and something positive, something life-giving, something that's got God at the center, I think it's you start to realize and you start to notice that you still have hard times, like you said. You went through depression all over again in 2022.
I nearly had fell down that
dark hole again.
Yeah, the slide.
And you thought that was going to happen, and luckily, your relationship with God and what you had going on, you were able to surpass that, and you were able to get above that. And I think that a lot of that, or all of that, had to, that was all God.
It was, yeah.
With God being able to walk you through everything. And I just, I want the listeners to sometimes understand that just because this is, I've said it in past episodes, that one of the misconceptions of Christianity is that when you become a Christian, that your life just becomes so easy. And
it doesn't, though.
Yeah, it doesn't. In fact, I can sit here and I will tell anyone who asks that my life has actually gotten more difficult.
More complex.
Exactly, since becoming a Christian.
I would totally agree with that.
But the only difference is we have a different set of tools to fight that. And we have a different way of approaching that negativity that we deal with and those troubling times that we have, relationships being one of them. I'm not going to go, if I'm having a hard time, let's just say me and my wife are arguing, I don't want to call someone up and their response to me be, "Oh man, don't worry about it. Let her cool down. Let's go grab a drink." I now understand how important it is to have those people in my life who are going to tell me, "Well, what did you do? Well, what happened? Well, did y'all pray together? What's been going on? Well, man, from the outside looking in, maybe you overreacted. Maybe you shouldn't have talked to her that way, That's not, something that's a Christian is supposed to do, And so those are the kind of things that really have helped me understand that, yeah, being a Christian is hard, but the way that we respond to these things, the way that we respond to the troubling times, the way that we respond to, falling back into depression or into those dark seasons, that God is in the middle of it now. And now it's not just us.
Everything.
Yeah, now it's not just us walking by ourselves. You've heard the footprint poem. I can't tell you exactly how the footprint poem goes, but basically it's a man walking on the beach, and he's talking about, talking to God. And again, I may butcher this, so I'm sorry for anyone who loves this poem, but I'm probably going to mess it up. But basically the concept is he's walking on the beach. He's praying to God, asking God, where are you? I'm going through these troubling times. And God says, I've been with you this entire time. And he goes, turn around and look. There's 2 sets of footprints in the sand.
Beautiful.
And he's like, okay. And he's like, those other set of footprints are mine. I've been with you the entire way. And then he goes, well, what about this time? What about this really dark time that I was in? There's only 1 set of footprints. Why did you leave me? And God said, I never left you. The reason there's only 1 set is because I picked you up and I carried you out of there.
That's the beautiful thing of life.
Yeah. And it's like we sometimes, when we're on the outside looking in, we sometimes don't see that. And I mean, like, outside of the godly relationships, we sometimes don't see that. We don't see that God ultimately helps us get through,
He certainly does, yeah.
There's things that me and my wife, we battle with as far as, like, finances and, we have arguments. I mean, there's times we argue on the way to church, or, I've had times where I left the house mad, and I normally get here before she does because, I serve on the media team. But there's times where she's like, don't talk to me whenever you get there. Don't act like everything's okay. And I'm like, I get here and people are like, hey, what's going on? And I'm just like, oh,
change your mind
nothing. Yeah, and I start realizing, like, man, you know what? I did overreact this morning. I was being grumpy this morning. Yeah. And then I have to send her a text message.
I think God just makes you realization. It's just a big realization of how life is supposed to be.
For sure, man.
And I used to, I suffer from PTSD too. And I used to get so mad at people cutting me off in traffic or something like that. Now I just let it go and hand it all to God, because it's not worth it having my PTSD kick in, because I get so overwhelmed, and that's really what I've been noticing that's different in my life, that I don't get too upset about things like I used to, like aggressively.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. I'm glad that you've come as far as you have. I'm so thankful for the friendship that me and you have. I think the small group that we had that basically went over everything we were just talking about, even though it may not have been a big group of people like we were expecting, I think that the people that were there benefited out of the things, just like anyone who's listening to this episode.
And even if it was just one person, at least we can help one person,
That's very true, man. That's very true. As long as one person has benefited out of it, exactly, I'm glad that we did it.
I think I'm so glad I did it. It's made me grow in my faith. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. I appreciate it. I look forward to next season and everything. Yeah. Is there anything else, any other kind of advice or anything that you want to tell a listener who may be battling with depression or suicidal thoughts or anything?
Just don't be silent. Just come out and talk about it. You're not alone. Like, please, just talk to someone, anyone. You don't need to be silent. You need to talk about your feelings. Just don't hide it and mask it with drugs or alcohol. It's not the way to go. Please just do it for me. I don't want anyone going down the same road as me. I just want to have people come to God and realize that this is the way.
That's good, man. Well, at the end of the podcast, we'll have a suicidal hotline number, Christian counseling, as well as some other free contact information that for all those who are battling with depression or suicidal thoughts, or know someone who is, please feel free to use those numbers and get in contact with someone to help.
And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I would be gladly talk to you.
Me as well.
I would love to.
I mean that with all sincerity. Anyone who, any of my friends or even someone who's watching this or listening to this, by all means, reach out in the comments section and just say, hey, can I get a comment back or something like that? And we'd be more than happy to talk with you. Well, Alex, I'm so thankful for you to, coming on, sharing your testimony, sharing your story. I can't thank you enough. I got so much love for you. I'm thankful for the friendship that we have.
I'm thankful for Brother's Church. Yeah. It really did save my life. Like, it totally changed my mind, thought, and everything. Like, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's really changed my life. And I thank you so much, Derek.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Let me go ahead and pray us out. All right.
Yeah.
Heavenly Father, we want to come to you today, and we just want to give you thanks for the life that it's Alex. God, we want to thank you for allowing him to understand that as long as there's still breath in his lungs, that he still has a purpose. God, we want to thank you for the life that you've given him. We want to thank you for the journey that he has been on, that even though something so tragic happened in his life, that you still brought goodness out of it, God. That we were able to celebrate his baptism just a couple weeks ago, God. I thank you for just the grace that you show people. I thank you for the grace that you give. God, I ask that any of those listeners who are watching or listening to this, God, that you allow them to have the courage to reach out and to open up about what it is that they're battling with, God. Let them know that they are not alone, that there are others out there who care, that there are people out there who love them, God, that you love them, that I love them, that even though I may not have met a person, God, that their life is important to me and that I care about them, God, that Alex cares about them. I ask that you continue to move in their life. I ask that you just fill their vehicle or fill their office or fill whatever it is that they're at right now, God, that you fill the room, that you allow the Holy Spirit to just drown that place out, God, and that they just feel the presence of you and the presence of the goodness that is you, God. I thank you for all it is that you do. I ask that you be with everyone as they travel home, if they are listening in a vehicle or if they're listening at work or wherever it is they may be, that you be with them throughout the rest of the day. I thank you for Alex. I thank you for this episode, God, and we lay it and give it all to you. We pray all this in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I just want to add that we are not alone because you always have God. And you're never alone, just like that story about the beach and footprints.
That's good, man. Well, I love you, dude. And
I love you too, man.
You know, I look forward to, you know, the rest of this life that God has for us.
I can't wait for the journey to start and blessings come my way and everyone's life.
That's good, man. Well, thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This episode is brought to you by Zing Media Co. Zing is a social media marketing company that helps small to medium-sized companies and organizations that want to make a positive impact in their communities. If you're in need of social media marketing, then reach out to Zing. Contact the team at zingmediaco.com.